Hello, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining into our virtual STEAM night tonight. We have two great presenters who will be presenting today. Let me just pull up the quick slideshow. Let's see here. All right, so today we are focusing our STEAM night around math. So we have two presenters. We have Gabia, who will be talking first. She currently attends Vanderbilt and her major is in econ with a minor in philosophy. So you'll get to hear a little bit about that. And then our second presenter today will be Andrew from the University of Pennsylvania, and he'll be talking a little bit about his major in econ as well as his minor in statistics. So you'll get to hear two different perspectives on some math related topics, and then we will have a Q&A so you can ask them any questions. If you have attended any of our other virtual STEAM nights, this will be a little bit shorter. We started it at 7 for a reason, just because we don't think it'll be as long as some of our other STEAM nights. But thank you so much for joining us today, and we're so excited to have your attention and excited to kind of talk a little bit about various math topics today. And then again, I just wanted to push our eCamp virtual summer enrichment programs. This is open to any student ages 6 through 17. So if you have a child or you know somebody, a family member who's interested in joining our virtual eCamp program this summer, we are still accepting registration. Please do register hopefully by today or early tomorrow, just because we have our orientations on Saturday and Sunday. But without further ado, we can get started with our presentation. So Gabia can present first, and yeah, so she can take it away.
Can you enable screen sharing really quick and then share my screen?
Yes. Okay, it should work now.
All right, hi everyone. My name is Gabia Tonkunis and I study economics at Vanderbilt University. Let me just get rid of that. A little bit about me. I grew up in suburban Chicago and I went to high school there. After graduating, I decided to go to NYU to do an interdisciplinary degree in economics and philosophy. But after my freshman year, I transferred to Vanderbilt to pursue better financial aid. At Vandy, I study economics and philosophy still in the College of Arts and Sciences, and I am involved in organizations like First VU, which is a first-generation low-income students union. I play volleyball, and I'm a mentor in MoneyThink, where I mentor high schoolers on personal finance and responsible consumerism, and I'm also in Women in Business. So what is economics? At its core, economics is a social science. It studies the way humans interact with each other on a societal level, as well as the relationships that result from those interactions. Economics is about how people allocate scarce resources to produce, distribute, and consume, both individually and collectively. It really can be boiled down to two main types: macroeconomics and microeconomics. Macroeconomists look at the economy as a whole, looking at factors like GDP, inflation, and unemployment rate. Microeconomists, on the other hand, study individual markets and decisions. Economics uses a lot of math. There's algebra, calculus, and a lot of statistics. But don't let that push you away from it. I was not very good at math in high school, but I decided to major in econ to get better at it. So that brings me to my next point. Why should you study economics? So as an econ major, you can develop your analytical, critical thinking, and communication skills. These skills really apply to so many different fields, which I'll talk about later on. I've listed some classes I took in high school that I find very helpful today. I know some schools don't offer very many AP classes, so I recommend taking classes in economics or consumer economics. government, business, law, philosophy, and psychology. So if you do become an econ major, the classes you'll typically take in college include econ stats, econometrics, which uses math methods like statistics when analyzing economic data, Calc 2, micro, macro, and game theory, which uses math models to study decisions. Some cool electives offered at Vanderbilt specifically include Latin American economic development, sports economics, healthcare policy, and business ethics. So at Vanderbilt, some of the internships I've been lucky enough to have been working at an environmental nonprofit called TCV and a genetic mutation advocacy group called Alive and Kickin'. This summer, I'm a financial analyst at a tech startup that tackles healthcare worker wellness issues. And I'm also doing research at Vanderbilt under a NIH-funded project called Get Precise, studying how genetic privacy and economics relate to each other. So at Vandy, a lot of econ students go into so many different fields because of how applicable the skills they learn are. Some common fields are business, like investment banking, private equity, venture capital, and marketing. I'd say the most popular is management consulting, and some less popular ones are academia, so getting a PhD and becoming a professor of economics, law, and the public sector. So if economics interests you, that's really great. Here are some resources that I kind of utilized when I got into it, if you want to keep exploring. I also want to thank all of you for logging on a Friday night to develop yourselves and your futures and to learn more about economics. And if you guys have any questions, I think we can start the Q&A portion right now.
Awesome, thank you so much. So yeah, if you have any questions right now, feel free to ask it in the live chat. It doesn't look like we have any at the moment, but I'll give a minute or so if any of you have any questions about econ or anything along the lines of anything that our presenter just said. All right, so it doesn't look like we have any questions right now, but if you do have a question, we can revisit it at the end of the session. So we can go ahead and move on to the next presenter, Andrew, who will talk a little bit about his experiences with economics and his college experience as well. And then if you have any questions for either of the presenters, feel free to ask that anytime during the presentations.
All right, great. My name is Andrew. I'm a sophomore at the University of Pennsylvania, and I'm really excited to be presenting today to you all. I will be going over economics as well. I'll try not to repeat things, as I know that Gabia did a great job with explaining all that. So we're gonna try to eliminate all those redundancies as possible, but I also minor in statistics, so I'm gonna be talking about that. Before I start, I just wanted to say that this is a very difficult time right now in terms of the pandemic and also all the racial injustices that are continuing to persist. So I hope that you all are taking care of each other and staying healthy and safe during this time. So with that being said, we're going to move on to the presentation. Gabia did a great job going over this, economics, the basics, dividing resources to create the most benefit. The fact that they're scarce is a big part. They're limited in scope. There are two main divisions, and as Gabia said, economics is very interdisciplinary. Yes, it uses a lot of math, but it's able to quantify a lot of concepts that you wouldn't even think involve math, such as government policy, ethics, even like philosophy at times, to try to see like what types of solutions would create the most benefit for the amount of people, and you're able to quantify that through math, which I think is just very rewarding and cool. So Gabia did a pretty good job of explaining microeconomics as a whole. I just wanted to reiterate that it's the impact of individual decisions on the greater good. And I wanted to list a couple of questions that would help illustrate these theories. So my first question is, how should Apple price its newest iPhone to maximize profits? This is a classic monopoly problem. A lot of people have the misconception that monopolies can price as high as they want, but that's simply not true, because then nobody would buy their product. So of course, these companies have to go through the process of saying, okay, where should we price our product to the point where we can really maximize our revenue? Enough people will buy this product at this given price to, create the most profits for our company. The second question relates directly to the pandemic. How do households choose to spend their stimulus checks? Yes, this may seem like a macroeconomic question at first because it involves a government policy and the stimulus checks. However, when you look at it, it involves households, which are individuals in this case, and thus it falls into the microeconomics sphere. So as you can see, you will need a microeconomics understanding as well as a macro one in order to best understand problems and the fallout of them. Oops, let me go back. All right, so macroeconomics, Gabia did a great job explaining this, Federal Reserve's actions, GDP, overall economies as a whole and how they behave. But I just wanted to list my example questions. I think they do a great job of illustrating the points. How does the Federal Reserve's actions affect bond prices during the pandemic? So in this case, the Federal Reserve has been lowering interest rates, buying up bonds. So how is that affecting the prices? And you'll be able to really understand these questions with, by understanding macroeconomic concepts. The second question is the other side of the coin from the question in the previous slide. Will stimulus checks help increase this quarter's GDP? As you can see now, the impact is a macroeconomic one in terms of GDP. So as you can see, you can look at a problem that involves the same concept in multiple ways to create a better holistic understanding to create the best policies, for example. Oh, sorry, lagging a little bit. All right, next, Gabia already kind of explained this, applications, professions. This list is not exhaustive or exclusive by any means. You can go into a variety of fields from economics. I just want to say like a lot of them differ in the way you apply economics. So like, for example, finance is going to involve a lot more math than like politics, for example, or public policy. So it just shows how you can go into economics from differing experiences and loves of math and come out of it with careers that might involve math and might not, but economics still has a very applicable impact on your career. I'm sorry. All right, and you will enjoy economics, at least for me. This is what I've seen among all my fellow economics majors at Penn. And personally, if you enjoy problem solving, you'll love economics. Basically, economics has provided me a great understanding of how to think of the world. And although math is involved, the numbers aren't really the priority. It's about how you set up the problem, how you view the problem, how you apply your theories to the problem. That's where you really see your most benefit. And this kind of ties in the second one. Economics is all about applying your theories. And yes, the problems that you see in class might not be the most applicable, but if you can use these same concepts for the Apple problem, for example, the stimulus check problem, for example. And I think this is a really rewarding part of the major. And if you love applied learning, this is for you. And as Gabia said, you can be in varying degrees of math to really enjoy the major. Like you don't necessarily have to love it or even be good at it when you're entering. It shouldn't dissuade you. Yes, it involves numbers, but the programs differ greatly. Like for example, at Penn, there's a mathematical economics program that involves high levels of calculus. But there's also like another program that's heavily focused on public policy and philosophy as well as economics. And that really doesn't involve math. So you can really find a program that really suits you and your goals. So next, I'm going to be moving on to statistics. This section is a little bit shorter, but I think it really hammers the points in well. Statistics is the ability to quantify information and make discoveries. A lot of people think of just like data analytics or whatnot, but it's very heavily integrated in research and being able to prove things to be real. A lot of people have the misconception if A% is bigger than B%, then A is bigger than B at all times. This is a fundamental misunderstanding of statistics that has caused a lot of trouble throughout society in terms of misinformation. So I recommend that everyone has like a fundamental understanding of statistics. And I think it really functions well as a minor or a major because even if you're in humanities or social science, if you want to do research, statistics is awesome for that. in terms of being able to discover your samples and really be able to enact change in the world. And I guess, yeah, predictions and forecasting is a big part of statistics. That's something you might think of. It's just like 538, sports betting, that sort of thing. But you can do other things in statistics as well. So I view statistics actually as kind of a social science. Yes, it heavily involves math, but when you're collecting data, it involves a lot of social science type thinking. For example, a fundamental understanding in statistics is that you have to have a random sample that can really represent your population. And you can't do that just by looking at numbers. No, you have to be able to go in and sift through this sample and be sure that it is truly representative. So an example of this would be like, who is projected to win the November election? If I were to go into South Florida and give this sample, like poll 100 people in South Florida, I don't think that sample is going to be representative of the entire population, and people just have to understand that. If you have an understanding of statistics, you'd be able to do a more randomized sample throughout the country that's better equipped to truly encompass the population of the United States as a whole. A second example question, this is more on the data analytics side. What are the odds the Chiefs win another Super Bowl? But so as you can see, statistics can be a lot about, finding your sample. It can be very, probability, data driven, very mathy as well. So that's my entire presentation. As soon as the next slide comes up, I'm sorry, my presentation has been lagging all day. I have my email on there if you'd like to contact me about really anything. I know I didn't really talk about me and myself, but if you'd like to just talk about my experiences, how I got to where I am today, anything like that, feel free to reach out. Yeah, that's everything. Thank you for listening.
Great, thank you so much. So it looks like we had a few questions pop up during the second presentation. So the first question is, why did you choose economics?
I can answer this one first. I chose economics because, throughout all my school years, I've really liked math, but at the same time, I've struggled to see like the practical application. And then I got to like AP economics my junior year, and I started to realize, math is great at being able to, I can actually apply math to, social situations. I've always liked history as well. So being able to quantify, social situations, like psychology even, has been really rewarding for me. And I feel like I've always been a really great at problem solving and always loved it. And I felt that economics is really the major for me as soon as I realized that it's really all about problem solving.
Yeah, I agree that a lot of it is problem solving and you really develop your skills in that. Personally, I kind of got into it because of philosophy. I read a lot of heavily theoretical texts at NYU, and I really started to understand how economics and philosophy, in my opinion, really explain how most of the world works. And a lot of issues can be boiled down to be economics issues or socioeconomic issues. So I really just wanted to have a fundamental degree that I could apply to, whatever I wanted to do later. And that would teach me really good analytical skills, as well as, like I said, critical thinking skills.
Awesome. So I think you touched a little bit on this next question, but if you guys have anything else you'd like to add to the next question, it is, what is most important in economics?
I guess in terms of just viewing it, I think being able to apply theory is critical. It's a very applied class in that way. It's all about problem solving. And from my experiences so far, like the theories themselves, when you first learn them, they're applied to situations that aren't necessarily the most applicable. So just being able to go in and say, and like look at a situation, look at like, the specific factors affecting it and really think about it, synthesize them and apply the correct theories, is a really rewarding but sometimes frustrating part about economics.
I would say I agree with that. I'd also say, for me, how I think of economics is kind of the study of incentives. So how do agents make decisions and like what drives to make them make those decisions? A book that really got me interested in economics is called Freakonomics, and it talks all about that. It's by Stephen Dubner and Stephen Levitt. They also have a podcast you can listen to called Freakonomics Radio. And I think they describe kind of that phenomenon very well and how it applies to any question and how it answers any question in the world, really.
Great. And then my next question that I see on here is, why do you think a purely socialist economy is bound to fail compared to a socialist slash capitalistic?
I guess for me, when I look at, it's kind of what Gabea just said. A lot of economics is incentives, right? So if you have a socialist economy, you're not, I mean, you theoretically could with a hybrid economy, but it's hard to provide those incentives to innovate, to, do the best work in the world. I mean, people are intrinsically, motivated by greed. That's a big economic, I guess, controversy, but a lot of people think that. And I guess money is one of the big things at play. And if you don't have those financial incentives, innovation is a big one, I think.
Can you repeat the question one more time, please?
Yep. So the question was, why do you think a purely socialist economy is bound to fail compared to a socialist slash capitalistic?
Well, I think that's a very philosophical question, and I think that depends on, who you ask. Karl Marx would say that a communist economy, or a capitalist economy is bound to fail as opposed to a communist one or a socialist one, because of that like excess greed and that excess use of resources. So again, it really boils down to like who you ask from a philosophical point of view. And I don't have a certain opinion about that yet. I'm still, learning those theories and looking into those philosophical discussions. So, but yeah, it really depends on who you ask.
Yeah, kind of just to reiterate that point, if you have just unlimited greed, we have problems that evolve, such as like just huge disparities in inequality and global warming, because we just completely abuse the resources that we have because people are motivated by greed. So yeah, it is a big philosophical question, of course. And also like your definition of success and failure, that's a big one as well.
And then the next question is a two-part question. So the first part is, how does statistics affect your views of the world around you? And then the second part is, how does statistics tie in with economics?
Right. So I'll take the first one. In terms of statistics, first of all, when you hear anyone say anything, you have natural doubt, right? I mean, you have to look, even if it's like supported by a study, quote unquote, you have to look in that study to make sure, okay, is this done correctly? Are their methods, reasonable for what they're trying to prove? For example, if you're trying to prove like a drug works and you only apply it to a certain population, such as like people above 60, if you try to, say that the findings of the study applies to the entire population, that's simply not true. You have to really have a lens of doubt going into looking at any new findings or any statements. And I think that's one of the biggest takeaways from statistics. Like you can't necessarily trust everything right off the bat. It has to be proven by statistics.
I love that question. I commend you, Andrew, for taking a minor in statistics. I wish I could, because I think that was like one of my favorite classes, AP Stats in high school, because it really changed how I looked at the world and how I kind of consume news, because I learned that statistics can be really easily not manipulated, but kind of they can really differentiate based on like certain factors on the, whatever research you're doing. Even if you change, like there's something called a p-value, if you change that by just a little bit, it'll change whatever outcome of the study is. So that really changed how I thought about the world and quantifying our arguments and things like that. So I really like that question.
Awesome. And then the last question, I believe, unless you guys have other questions as well, feel free to continue posting them in the live chat. But looks like the last question for right now is, in general, what are the difficulties in learning economics?
I think one of the hardest things is just being able to just apply theories. I know I've talked a lot about application, but when you initially learn the theories, yeah, they might be intuitive, etc. But when you get to a completely new problem that uses the same theory, at times it's very hard to apply that because you learn the problem through you learn the concept through a certain problem, for example, but when you change like the parameters, like, and you even change like small details and you have to integrate different theories, it can overwhelm you, especially if you don't get it right off the bat. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges of economics, in my opinion.
I think for me, again, like I said in the presentation, for me, it's math. I wasn't always very strong in math. I was much more into English and philosophy and things like that, like the humanities. So taking these really advanced math classes has been difficult in college, especially because it's so rigorous. But it's something that I think I can get past. And like Andrew said, I can tolerate it. Um, and I think, the economics degree matters more to me than, the mediocre grades that I get in math. And I feel like even just taking math classes helps me develop myself to think more analytically about the world. Uh, so yeah.
Awesome. And then it looks like another question popped up, which is why did you choose the schools you went to?
Yeah, so for me, I just saw it was a great fit. Of course, it's very difficult to get in there, so I'm very fortunate that I did. But after getting in, I visited. It was a great fit for on campus. I thought the academic programs were excellent. Just like the community that I saw that was there, it really fit what I wanted in a college experience. So those were really the main factors for me, just academics, in fitting in to the campus and what exactly it provided.
Yeah, that's a great question. I first went to NYU because I wanted to be in the city, and I wanted to be in a very exciting and a place kind of bursting with energy almost through the seams. And I also went to Gallatin specifically because I wanted to learn from, look at problems from several angles and perspectives. And that's kind of what I did there. But I did transfer for financial aid reasons. Vanderbilt has amazing, amazing financial aid. They have 100% financial aid need met. And I wanted to go to Vanderbilt specifically because I thought they had a really good balance between academics and kind of culture. And I find that to be very true. The students are very well rounded, and I know people that are doing just amazing things, but are also acing their classes. And it's just a really great place to be.
Awesome. And if you guys have any other questions, okay, look like one just popped up now. Is there anything that you would like a prospective economics student to know that hasn't been covered yet?
I think it's great that you even think you're going to major in economics because in high school I was kind of clueless. I had like an idea of what classes I liked and stuff. But I think for an early economics major, I think I'd read as much as possible about specifically the things that interest you. So you don't have to read necessarily like theoretical texts like Adam Smith or, Karl Marx or anything like that. But you could read, for example, if technology interests you, you could read about, like Andrew said, how iPhones are priced and just about, monopolies like that. But if, for example, healthcare interests you, you could read about that. So just look into really what excites you and just learn about the products there and like the markets there. And you'll find that they always lead back to economics, and you can learn, the more fundamental economics ideas later on in college.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Just one note that I have: a lot of people take economics or want to major in it because they think it's easy. For some people, it might be, but at least in my experience, it's not. It's very intensive. It has quite a bit of math, as we both talked about. So don't take it just because it's easy, because I promise you, it's not.
I agree. It's a very rigorous major. And also, it's one of the highest scoring for any graduate school. So even law school, medical school, business school and just in general, the GRE, they consistently rank among the top scorers, and for a reason, because it's very rigorous in both qualitative and quantitative skills.
Great, thank you so much. So I'll wait a few or a minute or so. If any of you guys have any last minute questions that you have for either of the presenters, feel free to let us know in the live chat right now. And then depending on if anybody else has any other questions, we will go ahead and wrap up. All right, so it doesn't look like anybody else has. Okay, just another question just popped up. So what companies hire people that get a degree in economics?
I've seen companies from all across the board hire people in economics. It's a very sought after degree to have. You can really do anything with it. I know people who studied economics and biology and are in medical school. I know people at Tesla doing economics, not specifically doing anything in finance or economics, but like I said earlier, it's such a broad and rigorous degree that you can really do anything. Again, I have lots of economics friends who do internships, amazing internships at, Google and Bain, which is a management consulting company. So yeah.
Yeah, just kind of to reiterate what we've already said, economics is very intensive. It's like the way you think, like a lot of economics is just figuring out, how to apply things and, formulating understandings that are both quantitative and qualitative. So a lot of companies look for that. And if you have an economics degree and you excel in that, they love to see that.
Awesome. And then another question that popped up is, do you have any idea of what kind of job you're going to be going into?
I honestly have no idea. That's kind of one of the benefits of economics is very flexible in what I do. I'm currently juggling other potential academic programs as well, but I know I'm going to stay in economics. But yeah, I mean, I honestly don't know yet.
I'm discovering, I think internships are great for this. You can discover early on what you like and don't like. I'm discovering that the heavy finance fields aren't really for me, but I really enjoy venture capital, which is providing capital for startups, or management consulting, which is really just helping provide business solutions for all kinds of businesses. So that's kind of what I'm interested in going into right now.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. If any of you guys have any other questions, feel free to let us know. Okay, so it looks like another question popped up. So who do you think is better, Ayn Rand or Karl Marx?
That's a funny question. I don't necessarily prefer either. If this question is asking like what kind of philosophy I prefer 19th century philosophy, sorry. And I'm interested in, both continental and analytic philosophy, but I wouldn't say I'm too inspired by either philosopher, even though both are very important in their respective ideas.
Yeah, it's funny you asked that question because they're literally like on the opposite sides. So I guess I prefer something in the middle, but it's all up to you, really. That's a big question in economics, like philosophically, where do you stand on the spectrum? So
Yeah.
And then another question is, what is the benefit of investing in startups when a lot of them make little to no profit?
It's a great question. I'm pretty sure the statistic is that 3 out of 4 startups fail, if I'm correct with that. I think that's true. The benefit, well, that's what venture capitalists do. They are the deciders about they kind of like look at ideas and kind of guess if they're going to be successful or not. That's like the whole industry and the whole job. It is very risky and there's a lot of money involved. And like I said, a lot of it's just constant failure. But, that one Uber comes along or that one, Airbnb comes along and you have one industry changed completely forever.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Startups happen because people have ideas and they think that they can improve the world. So if they succeed, they've probably done their job. So that's why startups exist. I mean, it's really to enact new ideas to make the world a better place. And yeah, sure, they might fail, but if you succeed, you make the world a better place and you potentially make a lot of profits. So.
Awesome. It doesn't look like we have any more questions. If you guys do have any other questions before we wrap up, feel free to let us know. And then I'll wait a few more seconds if you guys have any other questions, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up today. All right. So thank you guys so much for attending this virtual STEAM night. And thank you for those of you who have attended multiple, and this isn't your first one, but you've been consistently joining in on these STEAM nights. We hopefully will announce our last STEAM night, which will be focused around art within a few days or so. We are launching our eCamp program next week, so we may not know until a little bit later in the week, but we will hopefully be working on getting our virtual STEAM night together for the art session as well next week or within the next 2 weeks or so. But yeah, that's it. Thank you guys so much. If you have any further questions, you can send us an email. You can send me an email down there. I have my email listed right here. And then you can let me know if you have any questions, and then I can forward your questions to either of the presenters. But yeah, thank you guys so much. And we appreciate your participation in this STEAM night. Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.